Let me start the recording. Last class, we have been discussing about the controllers. We discussed what is the controller. What is the controller? Controller is a Apex program that is connected to Visualforce page to perform additional logic, right? And we have seen the examples also, how to call the custom controller within the Visualforce page. And what are the different type of controllers we have? We have three types of controllers: standard controller, custom controller, extension controller. And we have seen example for custom controller. What is a custom controller here? Custom controller is we are implementing some custom logic within the Apex class. And we are calling that Apex class inside the Visualforce page. Right, so here CL1606 underscore create a account is the custom Apex class. So we are calling this a custom Apex class inside the Visualforce page using the controller. So this is what we have seen yesterday. And whenever we are using the controller, can I use the standard controller in same? Like here, I wanted to use the standard controller. Can I use it? Both the controller and standard controller. No, we cannot use. If either I have to go with standard controller or I have to go with the controller. Both of them, I cannot use it in one single Visualforce page. A custom and standard controller cannot be referenced in the same page. If I'm using the controller, I cannot use the standard controller. If I'm using the standard controller, I cannot use the controller. Both the standard and custom controller cannot be used in the same Visualforce page. That's the reason we have another controller which is called as an extension controller, Along with the standard controller, if I wanted to implement anything, I can use the extension controller, right? If along with the controller, if I wanted to extend something, I can use the extension. For example, I'm using the standard controller. Along with the standard controller, I wanted to implement something called extension controller. I can do that. I can do that. If we wanted to anything, we wanted to extend our logic, we wanted to implement any logic, we can do that. Right? This we will see later. But before understanding the extension controller, let's understand the another concept. But so far we are clear with the custom controller and standard controller. We are clear with the custom controller and standard controller. Regarding the extension controller, before learning the extension controller, let's understand different topic which is called as a OOPS. The first property is OOPS. So today our focus is we will learn the first property of OOPS. First property of OOPS is called inheritance. So we will learn the inheritance first. Today we will learn the inheritance. In OOPS, the first property is inheritance. Everybody might be aware of this inheritance. So what is the inheritance? Basically, inheritance is nothing but passing of a behavior. Passing of a behavior from parent to child. From parent to child is called inheritance. What is the inheritance? Whatever the parent has, passing all the behaviors of parent to child, passing the father to son. Whatever the father has all the information, they can pass it to child is called as a inheritance. What are the different type of inheritance we have? We have single inheritance, single inheritance, and we have a multiple inheritance, and we have hierarchical inheritance, and then we have a multiple inheritance. Multiple we have already written, multi-level inheritance, and then finally we have a hybrid inheritance. What are the different types we have? There are 5 types are there, right? 5 types we have: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and multiple inheritance, hybrid inheritance. What is the inheritance? Passing of behavior from parent to child is called as an inheritance. What are these? Single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance? What is the difference? All of this. How can I say that this is a single inheritance or something called as a multi-level inheritance? How can I say that? Right? Single inheritance means, let's understand step by step. Single inheritance means one parent. Let's assume class A, and I have another class which is called as a class B. If one child is connected to the parent or one parent is connected to the child, one parent is connected to the child is called as a single inheritance. Is called as a single inheritance. Right? Next we have a multi-level. Next we have a multi-level inheritance. Multi-level means child to grandchild. Child to grandchild. That means I have a class A and I have a class B and there is a class C. Right? So for example, I have a class A. Class A is father, parent class. And we have a class B, which is a child class. And then we have another class, which is a grandchild class. So that means class A parent class is connected to the child. Parent class is connected to the child class, which is a class B. Again, child class is connected to the child C. Child B is connected to the child C. That means this is the father to child, child to grandchild. So finally, this grandchild can access the properties of class A. So which is called as a multi-level, which is called as a multi-level inheritance. It can go as much as deeper. If we have a class D, that is grandchild, and this class C is connected to class D, then D can access the class A properties as well. Right? This can go as much as lower, So which is called as a multi-level inheritance. Which is called as a multi-level inheritance. And let's understand the hierarchical. Let's understand the hierarchical. Hierarchical means if I have a parent component, which is class A, hierarchical, right now what we are learning, hierarchical inheritance. So I have a parent class and this parent class is connected to the multiple child. This parent class is connected to the multiple child. Like I have a child D, so that means class B, and class C, and class D. So what will happen finally? This, what are the parent is there? This property is divided into the class B, class C, and class D. Right? So that means one parent is connected to the multiple child. One parent is connected to the multiple child, which is called as a hierarchical, which is called as a hierarchical inheritance. Right? Hierarchical means one parent is connected to the multiple child. Now, next one is multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means I have a two parent classes. I have two parent. So class A, and then I have a class B. And there is a one child which has class C. So this class C is accessible. That means parent A can access this and parent B is also accessing this. That means child has two parent. Child has two parent. Child has two parent. So which is called as a multiple inheritance, which is called as a multiple inheritance. Our next one, hybrid model. Next one is hybrid. Hybrid means I have a multiple parents. Again, that multiple parents are connected to the multiple child. It's kind of a hybrid model. So this is a class A. Class B. Class D, C, and then we have a class D. Right? So now what will happen? The parent class A is connected to the class B child and also connected to the class C child. Now class B is connected to the class D child. Again, class C is connected to the class D child. So basically everybody is connected to everyone, which is a hybrid model. So this is hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance. Now we are clear what is the single inheritance, what is the multi-level inheritance, what is the
hierarchical inheritance, and what is the multiple inheritance?
C++ multiple, multi-level, hierarchical, hybrid.
Anybody has any question? Okay, so we are clear with the single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance, hybrid inheritance. Right? We have seen how each one, the connection will be worked between the parent to child. But coming to Salesforce, only 3 inheritance are supported. Coming to Salesforce, only 3 inheritance are supported. Only 3 inheritance are supported. What are those? Single inheritance. Single inheritance is supported. And multi-level inheritance is supported. Multi-level inheritance is supported. And hierarchical. Hierarchical inheritance is supported. Only 3 inheritance are supported in Salesforce. What is the reason for only 3? Because in simple word, in Salesforce, one child can have only one parent. One child can have only one parent. Again, I'm not talking about the relationship here. I'm not talking about any master detail relationship, junction, or lookup relationship. I'm not talking about that. When I say relationship here, I'm talking in terms of program. It's a relationship between a program. One child can have only one parent. Can have one parent. It cannot be like a 2 parents. It's not possible. Whereas one parent can have a multiple childs. One parent can have a multiple child, which is possible. But child cannot have a multiple parents. Salesforce does not support programmatically. Right? So these are the ones which are supported in Salesforce. Single is supported, multi-level is supported, hierarchical is supported. Now let's understand what are the properties in order to implement the inheritance. Properties of inheritance. What are the properties of inheritance? First one, parent should use, if anybody wants to note down the notes, they can note down. Parent should use virtual keyword. Parent should use virtual keyword. Or you can say that virtual class only be inherited. Virtual class only be inherited. Virtual class only be inherited. Second, child must use extended keyword. Child must use extended keyword. child must use the extended keyword. And third property is private method cannot be inherited. Private method cannot be inherited. It could be private method, it could be private variable or private class. Anything which is having the private in the parent class cannot be inherited. What does that means? Without access modifier, without any access modifier, without any access modifier cannot be inherited. This dot, we have something called this dot used for class and super dot used for parent. Right. Let's see, when I say these are the properties, parent should use the virtual keyword. That means virtual class can be inherited and child must use the extended. And private method or variable class cannot be inherited. Without access modifier cannot be inherited. What does that mean? Let's go ahead and see with the examples. File, new Apex class. Let's say CL underscore, today's date 1706. And this is the inheritance. Let's say parent. I'm creating the parent class. I'm creating the parent class. Let me create the child class also. New Apex class. Instead of parent, let me put child. Now, so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to pass. Which one I'm creating right now? I'm creating the single inheritance. This is the parent and this is the child. From parent, I'm passing the details to child. So this is the parent and I have only one child. One parent, one child. So this is the single inheritance. Now, if I have to pass the information from parent to child, what I have to do? The first point. What I have to do? Parent should have the virtual keyword. Right. So parent should have the virtual keyword. How to declare it? Before the class keyword. Before the class keyword, write virtual. When you say virtual, that means this is a parent class and it says that I'm ready to this is the parent class. I'm ready to pass the information to child. I'm ready to pass the information to child. So that's the reason we have mentioned as virtual. No parent is ready to pass, but how can child can access? How can child can access? Just a second. Okay, but how can child can access?
Removing. One minute.
Yes. So child can how child can access? So in order to child access, what should child do? It has to be extended. So child name space extended extends. What I'm extending? The class, the parent class. Right? This is how we try to implement the single inheritance. This is how we implement the single inheritance. This is the parent class. Parent class is that virtual. That means I'm ready to share all my public or whatever the access modifiers except the private access modifiers. I can share all my variables, classes, methods to the one whoever is extending my class. That means whoever is the child that is extending the class for parent, they can ready to take it up. Now let's see how they will take it up. Like in the parent class, let's assume that public integer x equal to 20. Public integer x equal to 20. Now I'm declaring the variable equal to 20. I'm declaring the variable equal to 20. Now let me go to the child. First of all, let's declare the method here, public void. Let's say calculation method, right? Now, I'll say that integer y equal to 50. Integer y equal to 50. And let this declare the integer z. And I'll write some calculation here. Z equal to x into y. Now let me print the system.debug. Now, do you see here I have declared a y and I have declared a z. But here the calculation which is happening. Can you? So I have declared the y and I have declared the z, but I have not declared the x, right? So when I saved the class, it did not give me anything saying that this variable is not declared anywhere. Where is it declared? It is declared here, right? It is declared in the parent component. It is declared in the parent component, right? It did not declare in the child component, but still I'm able to access the parent component, parent variable in the child, and I can execute it and I can see the result. Let me go ahead and execute. N equal to new. Let's create a initialize the object here. Now n dot. I have a calculator method here. Okay, it is not expecting any parameter. I simply call that method. Let's go ahead and highlight this. Click on the execute the method. Void. If I execute this n dot, let me give the different name here. N child dot okay, highlight the debug. See, it is giving the 1000. Y is 50 into the 20, right? So it is giving the total result as 1,000. So that means if I have a public here, that's the reason it is able to access my variable. But in case, let's assume that I have simply written integer. Integer a equal to 10. I simply initialize integer a equal to 10. Let me declare it same with other variable also with the different access modifier. What are the different access modifier? We have global, integer, b equal to 30. Next, private, integer, c equal to 40. And protected, integer, d equal to 60. Right? Now, if I save this, it is going to throw me an error because I have written the global here. When I have a global variable or global method or global class, anything within the class, if I have a global access modifier is declared, then I have to use the global class name also. Using the public class, I cannot use the global inside. Using the public class access modifier, I cannot use the global inside. If there is anything which is declared as a global inside the class, then we have to use the main class name also should start with the global access modifier. Global access modifier. Now let's go ahead, let's save this. Now, inside this, let me put simply I will print system dot debug. Let me take A. Right? Now, which one is going to throw me an error? Here. I'm trying to access all the variables. I'm trying to access all the variables. Okay, in another way, let me ask, out of these variables, which are the variables I can access in the child class? So here integer a equal to 10. This cannot be accessed in the child class because one of the property is without access modifier cannot be inherited. If I do not specify the access modifier in front of the variable, I cannot access here. And next one, I have a public here. When it is a public, I can able to access, that is fine. If it is a global, it can be accessed. But if I have a private access modifier, can I be accessed that? No, I cannot access. And rest all can be accessed. That means without access modifier, this is without access modifier, cannot be inherited. Cannot be inherited. This has an access modifier public. That means can be inherited. And this is also same because it is a global. When we declare a global, can be inherited, right? When it says private access modifiers cannot be inherited. Cannot be inherited. Now, next, protected. Protected can be inherited. Can be inherited. Not only with the variables. Not only with the variables. If I have a method, let's assume that I have a methods. Void m. This is the first method. Let's say that system dot debug. System dot debug. This is parent method. Same thing, I'll declare M1, M2. But here we will use the access modifier public, and here we will use the global. And this is M3. Let's use the access modifier as private. And this is protected. This is protected. Let me change this to, this is M3. This is M4. Right, let's say. Now, how many methods I have? How many methods I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 methods I have. Out of these 5 methods, which all can be accessed in the child? Which all are methods can be accessed in child? Public can be accessed.
Public global protected.
Right. Public global protected can be accessed. Without access modifier cannot be accessed. Private cannot be accessed. Right. Okay. Let me go ahead and create a new class. File, new Apex class. Let's say CL underscore 1706. And this is inheritance 2 underscore, let's say parent. Copy this. Let's create it. And we'll create another class which is a child class. Okay. So I have created a parent and child. So right now also I'm going to implement a single inheritance. Okay, I'm going to implement a single inheritance. Now let's assume in the parent class, I have a method. Public void. Let's assume that this is a subtraction. And I'm expecting the parameters integer A, integer B. Integer A, B. So inside this, I'll initialize a variable, which is a result, right? And then result equal to A subtract B. Then finally, I'm printing the system.debug. What I'm printing result is the print. I'm printing the result. Okay. Same method, same logic, basically same business logic. But here I'll do the in child class. will implement an addition. And multiplication. Let's assume that these both are void. In child class, these both are does not have the access modifier. This both does not have the access modifier. So what I have to do, I have to implement another method, public void, let's say main method, and it's required the integer a comma integer b. Now let me call addition. I need to pass a comma b, and then I have to call multiplication. While calling the method, it is expecting the two parameters. And in the parent component, what I have? Sub a comma b. Right? Let me go ahead and save. It is going to throw me an error because sub method is not declared. This method does not exist in the child class. And I did not made any connection between the two classes. I did not create any connection between the two classes. So how do I need to implement in order to make the connection? First thing, on the parent class, I have to mention virtual. Let's save it and copy the class name, parent class name, go to the child class, extends the class name. Let's save it. Right, so now the class is parent method is able to access here. Child class can able to access the things. Now let me initialize or create an object with a new class. What is the method? Method is main method. I'm expecting two variables, 50 comma, let's assume 30. And highlight this, click on execute highlighted. Click on debug. So first one addition, then multiplication, then subtraction. Right? It executed all the methods, including the parent class method also it executed. Parent class method is also executed. For example, I have this child class, okay, and I also have a grandchild class. Let's create a grandchild, which is a JSON. I have a grandchild class. Which one I'm implementing right now? Multi-level inheritance. Parent, child, grandchild. Right? I have a grandchild. When I have a grandchild, I have to first extend the child. And whenever we are extending the child, it should have virtual. So what is this means when it has a virtual and extend? That means this particular class is playing as a parent component, playing as a child component. This class is like you have a grandfather, father, and child. This is a grandfather, and this is child component playing as a father, and this father is also have the another child. Right? So this, whatever the second component is there, second class, this is playing as a parent component as well as this is playing as a child component. This is playing as a child component, parent and child. Now let me implement a method here, public void. Let's say that this is a grandchild method. grandchild method. So what I wanted to access, basically I wanted to access the parent-parent method. I wanted to access the parent-parent method. Let me give the values here itself, right? And also I wanted to call the child of one of the method. So what is happening here? The first method which is calling not from the child class. It is calling from, so basically this class is going to child and child is going to the parent. Ultimately what is happening? I can access the grandfather property. I can access the grandfather property, right? A is the grandfather property, grandfather, and then B is the father. Then right now, child. Child can access the grandfather property as well as child can access the father property also. That means B to C. So whose property it is accessing? Father property accessing. Right? So if I try to execute this, what is the issue? Add. Add, it might be thinking. Let me add addition. Method is not visible.
Why? Because you are not
private, right. Yeah, because it does not have the access modifier, right? So if I have to access only the public property, I can be accessed. Father private methods I cannot access. Now, which all it has to print? First thing, it has to go to the parent, print the subtraction. Then it has to go to the main method of the father, and it should execute the addition, multiplication, subtraction. Basically, subtraction is executing it twice. Let me create a new class. Let's create a new object here. And then in child, let's call the grandchild. Okay. But this is not expecting any parameter because we are hard coding the values inside the grandchild itself. So I need not to pass any parameters. So let's highlight this, execute the highlighted one. See, it declared subtraction is 10, 10, 74, 134. Right? So far, is it clear? Okay. Let me quickly create new Apex class. Let's create CL underscore 1706.
Madam, here without creating the main method, can we go with giving the access here now? Wide addition and wide multiplication.
No, without calling the main method, you cannot jump here.
No, instead of creating the main method, so if we provide the access modifiers for the below methods, we no need to create the main method, right?
Right. In
So we
case if
can
you
do
provide
that
access
application.
modifier here, so
Yeah.
you can directly call the addition here.
So in that case, how then how we can call that parent methods in child, because we are not creating the main method again, right?
Can you repeat that? So if you
So if
wanted to
you
call the addition directly, okay. So your question is how to call the addition directly. Is that
no no
so?
no in the main method you declared these addition, multiplication, and subtraction, right? Subtraction is from parent.
Right.
So instead of creating the main method, if you are declaring for addition and multiplication, providing access modifier, in the same way, how can we call that subtraction into child class without creating the main method?
Okay. You don't want to create a main method here.
Yes.
Okay. Let
And
me
providing access
comment out.
modifiers to this addition and subtraction,
So
multiplication.
you wanted to call the subtraction directly into the grant chain.
Yes.
So you can use it. Same thing. Like you need not to call the method here. Your child need not to call this method. Basically, when you mention virtual and extend of parent, when you have this, it is automatically accessed. So this particular method can be directly accessed in the grant check. You need not to do anything in the father.
So in the system.debug, in the last output, we got the -10, right?
Yeah.
So actually the result, can you show me once? 50 minus 40 or 40 minus 50 second? How we got that -10?
Right. Basically, here main method, I'm passing the 30 to 40. The
Okay,
numbers
okay,
are
okay.
different. When
Okay,
I'm
not
calling
50,
the
40.
parent method, I'm directly calling the highest number as 50 and B is 40, which is 50 minus 40. That is the plus 10, which is coming as plus 10. But in the main method, I'm passing the A value less and B value high. So that's the reason it is coming as a -10.
-10. Okay, okay. Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? Maybe I'll talk about the last point tomorrow. So till this point, we have understood parent should have the virtual, right? Or virtual class can only be the inherited, and child class must use the extended keyword. Private method variable class cannot be inherited. We understood this. Without an access modifier cannot be inherited. This we have understood. Now this dot used for class, super dot used for parent. We'll see this tomorrow, how to use that in the child class. Before I log off, any other question regarding the inheritance? Is everybody clear?
Just join a bit late, ma'am. Can you tell that brief at the starting point, what you explained? Just a brief. Inheritance.
So inheritance is basically, so today in OOPS, okay, in first one is inheritance. What is the inheritance means? Basically passing of a behavior from parent to child is called as a inheritance. Passing the behavior of parent to child is called as a inheritance. And inheritance are total 5 are there. Single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, hybrid inheritance. Single inheritance means one parent is connected to one child. Multi-level inheritance is nothing but parent is connected to child, child is connected to grandchild, and this can go down as many as, like the level down as deep as the level. Okay, and then multi-inheritance. Two parent classes are connected to the child. Basically, both of the parents are connected to the same child, which is called as a multiple inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance is nothing but one parent is connected to the multiple child component. And when it comes to the hybrid is parent is connected to the child B and child C. Again, these two are connected to the child D. It's kind of a hybrid model. But when it comes to the Salesforce, Salesforce is supported only 3 inheritance. Single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance. Why Salesforce is connected to only 3? Why it is supported only 3 inheritance, single, multi-level, hierarchical? Because Salesforce has only the concept called one child is connected to the one parent. Okay. When I say one child is connected to the one parent, I'm not talking about the relationship. I'm not talking about the master detail relationship, or I'm not talking about the lookup relationship. I'm talking in the programmatically. Programmatically, one child is connected to the only one parent. Parent can connect to the multiple child. Parent can connect to the multiple child. But at the end, child should be pointing to the only one parent. It's kind of a one father to one child. But child can has a multiple father. Grandfather to father, father to child, child to grandchild can be down. So this is the way you think in the real-time scenario. So if you want more detail, go through the video. It's recorded.
Yes, got it, ma'am. In the inheritance, you told that 2 parents will have one child. You told, right? So in the Apex class level,
This
in
is
the
not
pair.
supported. This is not supported in Salesforce.
Okay.
Multiple inheritance is not supported. Here is Salesforce is supported to single, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions? Let me stop recording.